Welcome to TechMark Pod, where we innovate, discuss, and discover the dynamic intersection of technology and marketing. In each episode, we explore how businesses can leverage both to drive growth and innovation. Meet Alvin, our esteemed host for TechMark Pod. With over 15 years of experience as a renowned marketer, project manager, and software as a service architect, join us as we uncover the unique value proposition of integrating technology and marketing strategies, helping you stay ahead in this fast-paced digital world.
Hi everyone, welcome to TechMark Pod. Today is it's Women's Month, and our guest Sine. I met Sine at an event. So so she was exhibiting her software, and I thought that was amazing. I just asked Sine, we had actually a good conversation. Marketers meet marketer. I said, Sine, you should come to the podcast. Let's really talk about deep dive into your software and what you do. Sine, welcome to TechMark Pod, and happy Women's Month.
Thank you so much, Alvin. It's such a pleasure to be on the podcast. Finally, I know we had a conversation about it, and it's so good to be finally here.
Definitely. Sine, I would like you to introduce yourself.
Well, I am Sine Shabalala, and I am the founder of a company called One Way Connect. One Way Connect, in a nutshell, is a company that uses workplace simulations and behavioral insights to help companies, to help recruiters, to help HR professionals make better hiring decisions. And what I have to say, in a nutshell, is that we essentially de-risk the recruitment process. So what we're solving for with the software is we're giving you the confidence that the person that you're going to be hiring is actually competent at doing the job, and not just you making a decision based off of a person's resume or based off of how well they interview.
Amazing. This idea that you had, was it inspired from experience, or it's just an idea that came from maybe trying out different ideas? How did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, so One Way Connect was certainly not an idea that I just decided to do or woke up, on a random day and decided to create it. It's something that I created out of a problem that I saw that I wanted to be solved. And essentially the story goes back to the very first job I had. And in that particular company, the startup that I worked for, in that particular company, I was hired to do marketing, but essentially I was wearing many hats because, in a startup environment, you're not just doing one thing at a time, you're wearing many hats. I was doing marketing, I was doing B2B sales, I was traveling the country to pitch to investors to raise funding. And obviously when we eventually, raised those funds, we were able to hire more people. For some odd reason, my employer at the time decided to include me in the hiring process. And the mistake that we both made at the time was that we were so focused on people's CVs, the C#, the Pythons, the coding languages that we were gauging for, that we didn't really consider whether the people behind the CV were the ideal fit for the company. And as a result of that mistake, we went from having a team of about 7 at the beginning of the year down to a team of 3 at the end of the year. And based on that learning and the mistake that we made, I don't know if it was confidence or if it was naivety, but I decided I was going to start my own SMME, sales and marketing agency. And with that particular recruitment agency, what I would do is I would go to my client's premises. So with this one example, with one client that I had who was hiring sales agents, I went to their premises, and essentially what I would ask the candidates to do is I would ask them to present to me. I'd ask them to work in teams, able to gauge how they communicated, how they worked in teams. So in addition to the feedback that I was giving from the experience perspective, from the interview perspective, I was also giving my employer, my client at the time, an overall insight into how they were actually going to perform on the job itself. But little did I know that 3 months to starting my little recruitment agency, be hit by COVID-19, and that was the end of that. I lost clients. So that was devastating. But the thing about that time was that because the unemployment rate was so high, I was still receiving a huge influx of candidates who were applying for jobs because of the unemployment rate. And I wish that I had a system that would help me manage all of those applicants. And again, I don't know if it was confidence, if it was naivety, but I decided I was going to do it myself. I was going to create my own system that was going to help me manage applicants. But again, not forgetting the human elements of human resources. How do I incorporate my approach to recruitment, where I was asking people to do things for me in person to gauge how they were going to perform at the job? How do I take that element and incorporate it into software and make it scalable? And that's how the whole concept behind One Way Connect came about.
Amazing. I've been involved in recruitment as far back as 2010, like probably prior to the World Cup. So
Yeah.
I was involved in recruitment of engineers and all the stuff. So I think when you explain it, I'm really like seeing the bigger picture on how this solves this issue. And,
Yeah.
getting the best candidate is not an easy thing for any recruitment agency or a company. That's amazing. So let's take it back to who's Sine actually in terms
Yeah.
of your educational background before we talk about your application.
Yeah. So Snare is a marketer by profession because that's where I got my career started. However, I am studying economics. So an economist who went into the marketing field and is an entrepreneur in HR tech. So it does seem like, how do these things work together? Essentially, Snare is a person who identifies a problem and essentially sets out to solve it, right? So I'd say,
Yeah.
as far as my background is concerned, that's me. It's a mixture of sorts, really. You try to figure out, okay, how do all of these three things align? But I feel like my experience and, the different things that I've been going through have resulted in me being the better entrepreneur that I am today.
Yeah, I think it's our experiences that add to who we are today, the resilience, and it adds to what we have actually built today. So let's
Yeah.
talk about then it's amazing that you became a marketer from economics. I'm a marketer who became a technologist and a podcaster. So
Yeah.
there's something that's quite interesting. Your transition from economics and then you go to marketing and HR
Yeah.
tech. Let's talk about the HR tech. Let's deep down into
Yeah.
HR tech. Would you wanna start by explaining it and then you demo it? Which one do you wanna start with?
I think I'll start by explaining it and then I'll show you how it actually works in practice.
Okay.
Okay. So with the HR tech itself, like I mentioned, it primarily based on a workplace simulation that helps you assess someone's capability of doing the job itself, right? So,
Mm.
just to add that the system evolved from being a standard recruitment management platform to now being a hiring intelligence platform. Because again, like I mentioned, we're trying to solve for, really having the insights into how a person is going to perform when they're on the seat as opposed to you going off a person's interview or going off what's on their resume. A resume, as I'm about to show you, is the starting point because it's a reference document essentially, right? So you can't really
Yeah.
make a decision without having context behind what a person has done before. It's merely just a starting point when it comes to our system. We use that to gauge, okay, does a person actually have the relevant experience when it comes to what's required of the job itself? But with the One Way Connect platform, I'd say our differentiator comes in the sense that we go a step beyond that. And that's where the workplace simulation comes in place because we're living in an AI powered world, right? I know
Mm.
AI gets a really bad rep in recruitment where candidates are being auto rejected without a human being having the chance to actually look at the resume. And so as a result of that, candidates are now starting to fight back, for lack of a better term, by also using AI to build their CVs. And what's happening is when AI is building your CV to match a particular job description, it's removing key information and changing job titles and omitting career gaps, for instance. And now you're not getting an accurate representation of a person's career history. So it's not necessarily something that you can rely on fully anymore. So given that that's the problem that we're seeing now in the AI-powered world that we're living in, we're now going a step beyond by adding the simulations where we're using AI to also help you see, okay, is a person capable of actually doing what they say they can do? You're not just going off what's written on the resume. You're actually seeing the behavioral insight. You're actually seeing, the capability when they're doing the simulator itself. Yeah.
We can go ahead with the product showcasing, let's say.
Okay. Okay, great. So this is essentially what the dashboard looks like. First thing you see is your, activity across the platform, with active jobs, your applicants, your placements. But just to add that in order for the system to actually work for you, it comes at the very beginning stages of when you actually sign up to use the platform. When you sign up to use the platform, what you're essentially doing is you're giving the system information about your company. And then when you actually create the simulator, when you actually post a job, the system itself already has context behind your industry and what it is that you would expect from a candidate who applies for a given job, right? And so the first thing that you'd have to do is, when you want to hire someone, is you'd post a job on the platform. And that would essentially be the first point of contact for anyone who would apply for the vacancy itself. And then once the person applies for that particular job, the first thing that you'd be able to see is a score, right? So I'm just going to go here so you can see that in action as to what that would essentially look like. So the first thing you see is a match score, right? But the match score isn't there, for the sake of being there. There's rationale behind why the AI analysis came to that score. So you're able to see the strengths, the gaps, and of course the skills analysis that led up to the AI giving you that score. But again, like I said, AI, measuring AI potentially, this is the first step and not the final step when it comes to assessing a candidate. So obviously the value proposition of the One Way Connect system comes in the assessment simulator, which is where you go here. Now, it works one of two ways. You can either create the simulator yourself, or you can generate the simulator with AI. And essentially what will happen there is that the AI will take information from your company because it's contextual focused. It will take information about your company, it will take information about the job requirements based on the job description that you uploaded, and design a hyper-specific simulator that is geared towards the job that you are recruiting for. So within that simulator, you're able to see how a person is, for instance, if it's sales, how they're answering emails, how they're responding to customers, what their professionalism is when it comes to dealing with people, for instance. So that's pretty much the main things that I wanted to demonstrate when it comes to the system. The main value proposition with the platform is the fact that we're making life easier for you, right, by giving you AI-powered insights. But the main thing is that you're able to see a person's capability. You're able to see how they respond to certain scenarios and the behavioral insights that would be extracted from that particular simulator.
That's amazing stuff. I think anybody who's viewing this podcast will then want to, conduct you just to get a demo or, talk to you more about this product. But we'll leave the details at the end of the episode, right? Before I talk about marketing, I want to ask a question, right? With AI implementation, one thing that I've identified of late is the client has, come in hard on us. How much tokens are they going to use whilst they're using the software? I don't know if that is something that you guys have catered or understood, or how do you manage the client expectations on that?
Yeah. So when it comes to, we've recently just adjusted our business model to accommodate for that, to be more token and credit friendly. So with the system itself, when it comes to certain aspects of the platform, because we do understand everybody has different recruitment methods, right? And no one company recruits the same, right? Given the fact that different companies have different recruitment processes, we wanted to make it customizable in the sense that if you want to only go into the system and use the assessment simulators, there's a certain amount of credits that you'll be able to purchase in order for you to create an assessment simulator. If you want to invite people to actually take part in that particular assessment simulator, then it also takes a certain number of credits for you to invite someone to take the assessment simulator. If there's certain insights that you want within the system, like your recruitment insights, time to hire, and all of that data that, a recruiter would find value in, then it also takes a certain amount of credits in order for you to have access to the data. So we are very credit, very token friendly, transparent in the sense that you're able to see exactly what you'd be getting into by utilizing those credits and what those credits could actually give you when it comes to accessing what it is that you'd need from the system itself.
Thank you for explaining how tokenization is working within your system. I think one of the questions that I want to ask you, Sine, is you are a startup. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, you're a startup. And I think maybe someone who's watching or listening, I think one will be curious to understand, okay, so do you have developers? Do you have a CTO? How's your structure of your company? How do you get this moving? Because this podcast, the people that listen to the podcast, we've got a variety of people. We've got startup funders, we have what
Yeah.
young people that are still trying to find their feet into the tech world, and they are inspired by what you do. So if you can just touch a little bit about that, then that'll be great.
No problem. It's just myself and my CTO at this point in time. Interestingly enough, prior to bringing my CTO on board, I had a team of developers who were working with me. And of course, that came with its own issues, given the fact that I am not a technical person. And I decided to make the decision to actually rather bring a partner on board, make them an actual partner, and let them have full strategic control of the technical development of the system, as opposed to me, being a person with a technical team and not having that full technical insight as to what they're doing. Because I'm not able to lead a person if I'm not technical and I have a technical team. It's better to have a partner that I work with who is able to actually make strategic decisions when it comes to the technical and the product aspect of things. And it's been working extremely well. I mean, look at the system. You just had a look at it and how it looks. We've been working quite collaboratively as a result of the fact that I now have, just myself and my CTO, but it's much better in terms of the output and the quality of the software as a result of limiting it to just myself and him.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
have you guys got any funding, or we are bootstrapping?
Because we have raised some funding before and bootstrapping at the same time. The funding that we raised was not substantial enough for us to say, oh, we raised an actual round. So it's been a combination of both grant funding, substantial grant funding, and of course, bootstrapping on our side. It's both.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about product marketing. I think that's one of the most interesting aspects. Everybody builds a product, and especially
Yes.
developers. I mean, they have lots of software that they've built, and they've been gathering dust somewhere, but taking the product to the market, that's the most difficult part.
Percent. Yep. Yeah. It's harder than the actual building itself. We've come to that. Yeah.
Tell me about it. What have been your challenges? What have been your experience on go-to-market strategies?
100%. I think the main challenge for us in particular is the fact that we're trying to tap into corporates is a bit challenging, given that there are a lot of, I'd say, gatekeepers, for lack of a better example of use of word, because when it comes to corporate and enterprise, there's a lot of decision makers that need to approve certain decisions, right? And obviously a sales cycle when it comes to that is a lot longer than when you're dealing with an SMME. So as a result, we've had a lot more clients who are SMMEs than corporate clients, because I mean, the bottlenecks when it comes to accessing clients who are in enterprise the barriers are a bit much higher when it comes to accessing corporate clients and when it comes to working with an SMME. So I'd say when it comes to our go-to-market, the challenge that we're facing is accessing the enterprise sort of clients. But I feel like we are, reaching a breakthrough. I've decided to formulate not really strategic partnerships, distribution partnerships with people who have access to people in the corporate space. And so that is going to be making life a lot easier with regards to accessing more corporate clients. With regards to our go-to-market, I'd say the main issue that we've been facing is accessing the corporate corporate clientele.
Yeah. So that's basically your B2B marketing in marketing terms. Yes, that's a little bit challenge. We end up possibly positioning ourselves with people that know people, which is necessarily not normal sometimes, I should say, because you want to get your tech into certain institutions that have got barriers to entry, especially for, our own people. I'm talking of Black people, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know how the other people are finding it on how they penetrate into enterprise, but we have a huge challenge getting into enterprise as well,
100%. You'd find that they use similar methods. When it comes to networks and using referrals, it's the name of the game when it comes to business. The name of the game when it comes to accessing certain people or certain opportunities is relationships and referrals. It's an important factor that will enable you to get into rooms that you wouldn't have ordinarily had access to had you not known certain people. So it depends, whether you're white or black, I mean, across the board, that's the name of the game when it comes to business in general.
Yeah. So when I met you at the event, at an exhibition, I had a lot of questions about what was the impact for your exhibition at that event. I think you can just enlighten me how exhibitions have contributed to your success or how that has worked for you.
exhibitions are, they've done a great deal in giving me access to people that I wouldn't have ordinarily had access to had I just sat behind the screen and sent emails and cold DMs all day. There's a certain face to face element that just makes a difference and makes a person more receptive to hearing you out as opposed to just, sending an email or sending a LinkedIn DM. And a breakthrough that I've experienced recently is when I did an exhibition, there's somebody that I had reached out to on LinkedIn who hadn't responded to my message on LinkedIn. Whereas when I actually did an exhibition in person, that very same person approached me and said, I actually need your product. Funny enough. So it's that
Yeah.
face-to-face human interaction that makes a huge difference when it comes to exhibiting. When somebody sees the founder, the person behind it, and has that communication with that particular person about the problem they're trying to solve and why they should use that said product, and it makes a whole world of a difference than you just sending an email and you being a person that they haven't met or haven't had that face-to-face communication with. So it adds a lot of context with regards to how successful you're able to be when it comes to whether generating leads or building relationships or strategic partnerships. It makes a huge difference. Exhibitions are quite powerful in that sense where you're seeing the people, you're meeting them, you're having conversations. You're not just, asking them to demo a product.
Amazing. It's interesting that we actually build software and the element of human is still very much important. Even though with this hullabaloo of AI, we still need to go on the ground to market the product to the people, speak to the people, amazing stuff. I like it. So I had a conversation with an ex-procurement manager at one of the financial institutions. And I said to him, I would like to bring in my software for them to use, right? Which is this one that I'm wearing, Hako Events. It's an event marketing software,
Yeah.
And what he said to me, he said, these institutions, they buy brands, they don't buy software.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
I don't know if you have experienced that. So he then mentioned to me, like, you're probably wasting your time because they're going to buy Zoom anyway.
Wow. I mean, that's quite interesting. A lot of companies I've found as well use legacy systems in my personal experience because they're more familiar with these legacy systems and they've used these legacy systems for years and years and they're not willing to change to using anything new, even though it's proven to be better because it's something that they're familiar with and there's a familiarity aspect there. They're more wired to go with what's familiar and are less or more resistant to change as a result of that. Like I mentioned earlier on, I'm having issues with tapping into enterprise simply because the feedback that I've received from a lot of these companies is not that the system itself that I'm trying to sell to them is bad. It's not bad at all. They tell me that I've used the system for 6 years in this company. The team is accustomed to using the software. We already know how to use the software. So changing is going to be, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for us because we were using the system. We're accustomed to it. It's been working so well for us. And as a result of that, what we've decided to do, myself and my CTO, is, let's just rather, offer to sell an API of certain aspects of the one-way connect system that they can integrate with their existing systems, because I'm finding that, a lot of people are so resistant to trying new software when it comes to, enterprise. So yeah, a lot of people are resistant to new innovations, although, it's quite the trend now that, AI implementation is a thing when it comes to corporates, and there's a lot of change management and AI training that's happening. But when it comes to the reality of it, a lot of these companies are still set on using legacy systems and systems that they're more familiar with. So that's quite true.
That touches on change management. So there is barriers to entry. What's interesting is we go on and build software, but we don't have a deep insight into the change management process. So the barriers that we face as product owners or developers is, first of all, you can't just sell it to enterprise easily. Secondly, it comes to implementation. I don't know if you guys have implemented your software. I don't know what size of an organization have you implemented and what has been your experience on implementation of your software. Do you outrightly sell your software or do you also implement the software?
Okay, at this point in time, we are selling the software, right? Like I mentioned before, it's been a bit of a challenge tapping into enterprise. approach is to sell the software as a solution when it comes to recruitment. Uptake as far as people being, excited to use it, right? Because of the recent
Yeah.
company, the CFO, had a conversation with the CFO of this particular organization, quite a big organization, has branches in Durban, Johannesburg, and Eastern Cape, if I'm not mistaken. Uptake is quite, they're excited to take on the product. I mean, they're about to come on board, and essentially, it's the first stages of them implementing it is obviously the training of their HR staff, because I'm having a
Yeah.
conversation with the HR team next week, Friday, with regards to how they're going to use it, how it's going to work for them when they use it. And then obviously they go ahead and they use a system whichever way they find value in. Again, like I mentioned before, some teams will use it for the assessment aspect, some teams will use it for recruitment insights, some teams will use it for the CV analysis. So they're obviously going to use it in the best way that suits them. But with every enterprise or with every organization, there comes a point, or the initial stage rather, is to, train them in such a way that the system would work for them to the best of its ability and in the way in which they need it, and to fit their context for their particular organization. And then obviously they go ahead and they, use the platform, yeah.
Interesting. From my experience, I would say you need to look out for that change management.
Mm-hmm.
It's really big. After building, you realize that it never goes away.
Yeah, 100%. It never does.
Definitely. So if someone is interested in your software and possibly they want a demo or they want to purchase, how do they get hold of you, Sine?
You can email me. So my email address is snare, SINE, at Oneway Connect, ONEWAY connect.co.io. You could alternatively follow us on LinkedIn, because my page on LinkedIn is quite active. Just pop me a DM. My personal LinkedIn as well. You can send me a message there, and yeah, I'm happy to book a demo.
Okay. I'm going to ask a quick question on something. I see you mentioned LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you not on Facebook, X, TikTok, and the rest of the social media platforms?
So I am on Facebook, funny enough. I am on Facebook, right? Personally, I am on Facebook. The company page has a Facebook page. But as far as, where we're seeing our traffic and where we're seeing our market, I've decided to make the decision to focus on the relevant platforms where our target audience will be and where we know we're going to get actual engagement. Not opposed to using social media from a personal perspective now, because I am on Instagram, I am on X, although I'm not that active. I'm actually generally not an active person on social media. But from a business perspective, I decided to stick to LinkedIn because, as a person who, like I mentioned before, workaholic, my target audience is on LinkedIn. I'm going to spend more time here trying to get engagement when it comes to the business. So that's the only reason why I'm mainly active on LinkedIn.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's understood. I won't argue with that. Hako Events is only on LinkedIn, but the rest are everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all depends on the strategy, and the product owner does choose which strategy they want to use, whether they want to go virality, use all social media platforms. Some people prefer TikTok, some people prefer LinkedIn, and whatever that works for you. There's no one size fits all in marketing. It's a try and error. So I think people need to understand that marketing is a try and error. It's not really one size fits all. Some people have gone on TikTok and it has worked for them. Do you understand? So yeah, definitely. Do you have any last words you want to share with us? Anything interesting? Anything?
Okay. Well, given the fact that this is a tech podcast and a marketing podcast, I'm going to say that when it comes to tech is ever changing. That's something that I'm learning myself. Tech is ever changing. And you need to keep up with tech, because if you don't keep up with the ever changing landscape of technology and AI, you're going to get left behind, right? That's one thing that I wanted to say. Given that we're on a tech driven podcast, it's one important thing that I must mention. And I'm saying this because I've recently implemented AI in certain aspects of the business, which has helped me tremendously when it comes to certain operational activities that I do on a day by day basis. And, as a result of realizing this, by way of implementing it and using it myself, and realizing if you don't get onto AI, if you don't change with the times when it comes to using technology to help you improve how you run your business, then you're not going to last very long, right? And, again, we're talking marketing as well. Marketing is the lifeblood of your business, right? So you can't do without marketing. you're a B2C, whether you're a B2B. I know marketing from a B2C and a B2B perspective are two different things, 9 times out of 10, but you can't do without marketing. It is the lifeblood of your business. So take that seriously. Someone has also told me as well that I, need to get serious with my marketing. And I need to build a personal brand because people relate to people, which I'm learning. Although I'm naturally very shy and very reserved and I don't like to be the face of my business, but because it's a necessity in this day and age and marketing is the lifeblood of your business, take that seriously as well. I'm trying my best to also put myself out there
Yeah.
from a marketing because I know how much it helps. And we can have another conversation about personal branding as an entrepreneur and how that can help your business. But yeah, that's something that I just wanted to leave with the podcast.
Wow. Interesting. So I think a couple of people that I've brought in onto the podcast, they've spoken about personal branding. I feel like I need to have a session, like a round table, speaking about
Okay.
personal branding and their own
Yeah.
perspective, in personal branding. Last week, I had a lady. She was on the podcast, and she has got a product that is around personal branding. You need to check out that, and it's
Yeah.
something that you might want for your own business. It's
Yeah.
quite a cool product. It's an NFC, business card, and I think it's actually cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to check it out. It's called
Okay.
Portal. Portal. Yeah, it's Portal.
Okay, I think actually yes. I met her at an event.
Really?
And she showed. Yes. I met her.
Great. Amazing. So it's a small world.
Yeah,
So it's a
very
small
small.
world.
I need to get my own. Oh, it's such a cool product. She's so cool. So actually, I
Yeah.
need to actually talk to her on LinkedIn. We actually had a brief conversation and then
Yeah.
get my portal quickly.
Amazing. I love the branding. I love what she's doing. I think I need a commission now since I've just sold it. I need a commission. I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her about that. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming to the podcast. This brings us to the end of the podcast. It has been a pleasure talking to you again, and I hope we have another conversation. Already you said you want to talk about personal branding. So yeah, I have to think about how I'm going to add everyone to this round table, and then we talk about personal branding. You know what I mean? So yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Alvin, for having me. It's been great. And yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you everyone for watching TechMarkPod. This special episode was sponsored by Hako Events, which is an event marketing management software. Thank you and see you on the next episode.